When it comes to the SAVE Act, I get this comment a lot. You want restrictions on the Second Amendment, but not on voting. That's hypocritical. And I get why people say that because as a former Republican, I used to make that exact argument. But once I dove past those talking points, the more I realized it's not the same thing. Both are constitutional rights and both can have requirements. But what I had wrong was thinking all those requirements were the same. And the difference is what those requirements actually do. So for me, if the government requires something to access a right, it should be free, accessible, and easy to obtain across the board. So when people say voter ID, okay, fine, but make it automatic at 18, make it free and replace it for free. And now it's not a barrier, it's just part of the system. And guess what? If that same ID is used to purchase firearms, then access is equal. And that's where it finally clicked for me because I was mixing two different kinds of rules. Some rules dictate whether you can even use a right. Others dictate how you use that right responsibly, and those are not the same thing. Access barriers are something like saying you cannot vote unless you have this document. And when those documents are tied to fees, now you have to take time off of work and come out of pocket to get it. That process right there determines who even gets in the door. Safety rules are things like background checks, training, and weapons storage. Those don't take the right away. Those are just making sure that right doesn't harm other people. The same way the First Amendment has safety measures to protect others. One controls access, the other controls responsibility. That's it. A little easier way to understand is voting is a one-day right. Miss it and it's gone. Gun ownership is ongoing. If you're missing something, you can still access it later. That's why those barriers hit rights differently. And when I went and looked back at the history, it all lined up. At the founding, you could own firearms, but there were still safety rules. There were laws about how gunpowder was stored. You couldn't just fire off your weapon in town, and Tennessee and Kentucky even had concealed carry restrictions in the early 1800s. Militia laws mentioned in the Second Amendment required people to maintain their weapons and be accountable. The right existed, but so did responsibility. Even early Americans didn't treat every rule and law as an infringement. Today, courts recognize that with landmark cases like District of Columbia versus Heller, and the precedent is clear. The Second Amendment is protected, but it is not unlimited. And I already know the next great pushback. Well, is an election integrity about safety? And honestly, that's a fair point. But again, security measures that keeps elections safe should not also make it harder for eligible people to participate. You can have all the things: free universal ID, accurate voter rolls, secure ballots, and expanded access, because none of those things cancel each other out. But if you have to add more hurdles, more steps, barriers, then you have to ask, what problem are we really solving? So let me ask you, where do you think the line is between protecting a right and making it harder to use? Let me know in the comments. And remember, patriotism isn't partisan.